This video is sponsored by Wanderlust.
Hey, what's up you guys? It's Tyler from the Harringtons. We're back today with a brand new video. Now, the year 2020 has been unique to say the very least, but it's been unique in a lot of different ways for me specifically from a technology standpoint. And that is because I have done some camera upgrades for the first time in many, many years. And I've also been editing more video this year. I've created more videos in 2020 than I have in the last couple of years combined, probably. I've been doing tons of editing. And in order to do both of those things, there's been a lot of little gear purchases and big gear purchases that I've made. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run down my favorite gear purchases of 2020 and share them with you right now. Before we jump into the list, I just want to say I'm going to link everything I talk about in this video in the description down below. Those are affiliate links, so if you click on them, I do get a small kickback. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It's just a way to support the channel. I just need to let you know that those are affiliate links. All right, so first up, we have the AirPods Pro. I do not leave the house. I do not do anything really. I don't even leave my bedroom without putting my AirPods in my pocket. I've had the original AirPods since they were really first announced, and I've absolutely loved those. When the AirPods Pro came out, I knew I just had to give them a try, and I use them all the time. I just love how easy they are to connect. I love the sound quality and the noise cancellation from the Pros. I love the silicone tips over the regular AirPods. And all in all, it's just a really great experience. People do ask me all the time, do you think it's worth it to upgrade to the Pros from the regulars? Or if you had to choose one, which would you choose? If you don't have either, I definitely suggest the Pros. If you're thinking about upgrading, I personally think that it's worth it just for the noise cancellation alone. It's a really amazing feature. I haven't done much flying. I haven't done any flying in 2020, but I do know that these work great on airplanes. And just in general, I think this is a really awesome purchase. I'm really happy with these AirPods and I use them literally every single day. All right, so next up we have the Atomos Shinobi. Now this is a 5-inch reference monitor that I use whenever I am filming. I've been considering buying a monitor for years and years now, and I'm really glad that I finally did. When I upgraded to the C200, although the screen is fine on the built-in C200, it's just not as good as I would like, especially when now shooting in 4K and all these things. Hitting critical focus is really, really important. So the Shinobi just gives me that extra screen real estate that I'm able to see really, really well, so I can make sure that I'm really nailing focus and also nailing color. Shooting more in log, it's more important than ever that I'm able to dial in my exposure and get that nailed just right. So having that bigger monitor that has more nits, it's just brighter, easier to see outside, has been really great paired with the C200, especially on a wedding day. The Shinobi is actually the exact same panel, the exact same monitor as the Ninja 5, which is a really popular recorder from Atomos, but I don't really need the external recording capabilities with my C200. I really just want the screen. So the Shinobi is great because it's much more lightweight and it's much more compact compared to the Ninja 5. I also love that I can use it in a variety of ways. I can mount it on top of my camera and use it while I'm operating and shooting things like weddings or documentaries and those types of things. I'm also using it right now for YouTube. I have it mounted just below my camera on a little small rig adapter so I can see what I'm doing while I'm filming. I can also attach it to something like a GorillaPod and set it out when I'm filming with clients, doing interviews and things like that. I can hand it to maybe somebody I'm working with, or I can flip it around and set it on a desk and show it to the client so they can see what the frame looks like. It's just really, really versatile tool, and I really, really appreciate that. It also has a lot of built-in features. So if you're using a camera that isn't a cinema camera, like the C200, but you want some of these pro features like peaking, like waveform monitors, like false color, all these things are built right into the monitor, which makes it a really great tool to pair with some of these really powerful new cameras coming out, like the R6, the A7 III, all these cameras that have the image capabilities of the cinema cameras, but maybe lacking some of the actual features and functionality. The Shinobi gives you that extra functionality and those extra features that you may be missing. Next up, we have the Anker wireless charging stand. Now, this may seem like a pretty simple, minimal thing, but this has actually been something that's been really great and really enjoyable to my just like day-to-day life. Wireless charging isn't a new thing with new iPhones. I've been able to do wireless charging for a long time. I don't really know why. Honestly, I've never invested in a wireless charging mat or pad or stand or anything like that. I picked up this wireless charging stand from Anker to put on my nightstand because the old one that I had actually broke. So I just needed something, and it has been really fantastic. I love how simple it is just to set your phone on there and just ready to go. I actually just upgraded or downgraded, depending how you look at it, to the iPhone 12 mini. I just am excited for that smaller form factor, but the smaller phone has a smaller battery, and I've heard that the battery life isn't great. So I actually picked up a second one of these charging stands to put on my desk, so I can just leave my phone on the stand at all times while I'm working at my desk, and I can always have full battery. I don't have to worry about it dying on me. I just think that wireless charging pads like this are really great, especially for charging overnight when you don't have to have that really fast charge. It doesn't charge super quickly, but you can, again, you set it on there, don't have to worry about it. You can grab it on, throw it back on there. It's just a really nice, quality of life improvement that I think is well worth the 20 bucks or whatever it is that I spent on it. All right, so before we go any further, let's pause. We gotta pay some bills. We're gonna thank the sponsor of today's video, Wanderlust, so that we can continue buying some cool tech going into 2021. So we've been outsourcing our wedding editing to Wanderlust for years, and it has by far been the best business decision we've ever made. For years, I fought the idea of outsourcing because every company I had found up until that point had either been too expensive to be realistic, or they just didn't meet the quality expectations that I had for my films. Until we found Wanderlust. Wanderlust was able to edit all of our wedding films at a price that made sense for our price point and at a quality that I was super, super happy with. And the process is super simple. You just choose the type of film you need edited, answer some specific questions about your project, and send over the footage. Everything is managed from a streamlined portal where you can chat with the Wanderlust team with any specific questions you might have, manage your revisions, and so on. Their turnaround times are quick, and they have never missed a deadline. If you feel like your editing backlog is holding you back from living your life or growing your business, you need to give Wanderlust a try. Thank you again to Wanderlust for sponsoring today's video. If you want to save $50 on your first edit with Wanderlust, simply click on the link in the description below, and you can try them out to see what it's all about. All right, so for this next one, we're gonna get a little nerdy here, but, and this might be something you're like, how can this be one of your favorite tech purchases? But it is an additional 32 gigs of T-Force RGB RAM that I purchased for my PC. Now, when I first had my PC built, I built it with 32 gigs of RAM, thinking that would be plenty. And honestly, I've never experienced a situation where I thought that I needed more than 32 gigs of RAM, because every time I would check the activity monitor, it would always say that I was only around, like 20, 25, whatever. But I was running into some issues with Premiere having really slow export times and just having some weird things going on. So I thought maybe this would be the solution. So I bought some more. So I doubled it. So now I have 64 gigs of RAM. And when I did that and I started doing some 4K exports, I started seeing my RAM jump up into, the 40 gig, 50 gig range. All I know is that having 64 gigs of RAM, it gets used. Now I'm seeing it's actually being used, and I'm getting really fast export times, and I never have to worry about multitasking. So whether I'm running Premiere and Chrome and some sort of a game and whatever, I have all these things going on, I'm never gonna worry about my RAM anymore, and it's solved a lot of my exporting issues, especially now, exporting 4K. So jumping up from 32 to 64 gigs of RAM has been a big improvement to my life, and highly suggest it if you have the ability to do so. Next up, we have a purchase that was part pleasure, part work, but kind of does both equally well. And that is my LG Ultra Gear 240 Hertz monitor. Now, it is a 240 Hertz monitor, which, if you know, it means it's great for gaming. It is kind of the reason why I purchased it. But with these new LG panels, it's actually a IPS panel, so it has pretty good color. Now, it's not perfectly color accurate, but it's much better than the monitor that I was using prior to this. So in terms of just day-to-day use, using it for my timelines and editing and things like that, it's much, much better than the panel that I was using before. And this is a 27-inch panel, so it gives me tons and tons of screen real estate for all of my video editing. I still use my Asus ProArt display for all of my color grading. So when I get to the very end of my editing, I have a specific profile set up in Premiere so I can have my reference monitor over there, and I'm doing all my color grading off of my ProArt display. But from just day-to-day use, games, web browsing, watching videos, this LG Ultra Gear has been absolutely amazing. It has 1 millisecond response time. It's perfect for gaming. It's perfect for content creation. I think it's a really great option for me, and it fits in that sweet spot between those two worlds. And then last but not least is what I'm using to film right now, which is my beloved C200. Now, ever since the C200 was first announced, I knew that I wanted this camera. It's been a couple years now, but I've always wanted one, and I've just been scheming and trying to think of how I was going to get one. And with a lot of my Canon cinema cameras, I don't buy them the second they come out. They're just very, very expensive when they're first released. It doesn't really make a whole lot of practical sense to me. So what I've done for actually all of my cinema cameras is I've waited at least 3 years in order to purchase one when the price comes down to a more reasonable level. So I finally went ahead and bit the bullet and bought the C200 in 2020, and I have absolutely been loving it. It's not significantly different from my C100, which is actually which is a good thing, which is why I like it. And it has a few minor improvements over the C100. But those small minor improvements actually make a huge, huge difference in terms of usability. So the main differences between the C100 and the C200 is gonna be that the C200 shoots in 4K, which I didn't think I was gonna enjoy as much as I do, but once you start shooting in 4K, it's kind of hard to go back. And while the C100 definitely has great 1080p, which, downsampled from 4K and it looks amazing, 4K is still 4K. So I just love shooting this thing in 4K. It has autofocus, which for this type of video is absolutely amazing. It has really great face detect, so I can just turn on the face detect. I don't have to worry about it. I can just sit kind of wherever. I don't have to worry about moving too much. It's gonna track my face, follow my face, and that has been really, really nice. And then having the ND filters be on a push button as opposed to the wheel, which again, seems like a very small thing, but it's just been really, really fantastic. All in all, I've been very, very happy with the C200, and I absolutely love it. The screen is not as good as I had hoped for how expensive this camera is, hence why I bought the Atomos Shinobi. But all in all, I have done a ton of video work with this camera this year. I've done tons of YouTube videos, podcasts. I filmed 2 mini documentaries. I've just filmed a ton of stuff with this camera, and it's been absolutely amazing. It's done everything I've ever wanted from it. It's a little disappointing, the 4K 8-bit, especially with all these new cameras coming out. It's a little frustrating to see these small, tiny mirrorless cameras that have more codec options than this big behemoth of a C200, but c'est la vie. It is what it is. I still absolutely love this camera. I think that it's perfect for the type of work that I do. But that is gonna be it. That's the list of all of my favorite gear purchases from 2020 that have had the biggest impact on my day-to-day life. If you're interested in picking up any of these items for yourself, I do have links down below. They are all affiliate links, so if you do use those to purchase anything, I do get a small kickback. It doesn't cost you anything extra, but it does help support the channel, so it would be greatly appreciated. If you're interested in any of these things, check out those links down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Tyler from the Harringtons, and I'll see you in the next one.